Nobody, and I mean nobody, would have expected Shanks to still be monkeying around, especially when Monkey D Luffy has officially reached his peak during the final saga. Shanks has basically adopted the pirates in the New World as his own playthings for nearly 30 years, especially seeing Loki chained up in Elbaf for the last 6 years, coincidentally around the same time Shanks first became a Yonko. And it doesn't help Loki's also bad-mouthing him, as his underling reveals Shanks used Conqueror's haki the last time he was in the prison called the Underworld, located in Elbaf. Shanks was introduced in the first ever chapter, and Luffy still hasn't surpassed him as we begin the second arc of the final saga and long-awaited Elbaf. This is what Shanks has done in One Piece in regards to its actual run in real time. 27 whole years of Shanks being above Luffy, especially since the first chapter is highlighting Luffy stating he will surpass Shanks. Talk about the irony of it all. The Celestial Dragon has done some ridiculous things, and it's about time we go over how absurd he actually is once and for all. From being hyped up to knock out all 100,000 fishermen instead of the 50,000 fishermen that Luffy did, to Shanks himself saying he'll meet Luffy soon once he saw that 1.5 billion berry bounty as the 5th emperor showed up, to reminiscing about how he obtained the Nika Delver ability as Luffy officially became a Yonko with worth 3 billion berries, to one-tapping Eustace Kid worth 3 billion berries himself alongside his fellow Worst Generation Vice Captain Killer, who was also on the rooftop fighting the Yonko. But this doesn't just change how we interpret Shanks. Many other characters get dragged alongside him. I also think there are many other new things to go over that you will find interesting, so sit back and learn some shit as usual. Shanks was destined to be a powerhouse in strength, as the earliest piece of information came 38 years ago during the God Valley incident, in which he was found by the Pirate King Gol D Roger and officially became a pirate at the age of 1 year old. But when we look closely, Shanks was on an island with Rocks D Zabek, a man who wanted to have the title that Imu has, the King of the World, and led Prime Whitebeard, Big Mom, and a young Kaido, the 3 pirates who would later rival Shanks as the original pre-time skip Yonko. Then there was also Shiki, who arguably was the Sanji to Zoro in that Rocks pirate crew when it comes to Whitebeard being Zoro and Shiki being Sanji. I can go on with Captain John, Wang Ji, Silver Axe, Amazon Lily's Empress, of course Glorissa, who most likely was a Conqueror's Haki user going off of Boa Hancock, and of course lastly Stussy, who we saw recently in Egghead Island. That mythical power was pretty cool. And then you gotta include Monkey D Garp and the powerful marines he brought, Figureline Garling and the powerful Holy Knights that he was a part of, and of course Saturn, and maybe more Gorsi as well, as Imu's possibility, because God Valley did not exist like Lelouch Kingdom did not exist. Of course Roger, Rayleigh, and Gabon and the rest of the Pirate King's crew definitely was there too. So Shanks' origin story exudes the definition of power in the One Piece world, because he was definitely starting his time around monsters. Now, not a lot of people talk about how Shanks' life on the Oro Jackson, not only was he raised by Gol D Roger as his father, technically, he got to see one of the strongest crew fight day in and day out, especially after they added Kozuki Oden as well before they headed to Laugh-Tale. And this was highlighted by Marco, who told Blackbeard Shanks has been around for ages, in which Blackbeard says he doesn't look very tough, but he has an attitude of a grown man. And we learned Shanks' former best friend Buggy admitted Shanks' potential shined so brightly that he thought Shanks would be the next generation king, following Roger's footsteps, and even was shocked that Shanks is now making his move, showing how powerful Shanks was as he was growing up under Roger, the king of the, of course, the king of the pirates, but also the king of Haki, his guidance. No wonder the fans call him the Haki man when you're following one of the greatest Haki users, stated by Kaido. I told myself you guys deserve a whole video on this topic, but it definitely needs to be talked about since we are highlighting Shanks' true power, and that is Shanks versus Mihawk. They both were present at Roger's execution, and Mihawk would debut in this series as the world's greatest swordsman. Not coincidentally, Shanks also uses a sword, a weapon that Shanks uses called the Griffin, and Oda would have Mihawk run into Shanks very early on, while letting Shanks know he had no interest in fighting a one-armed man. Now, a lot of people looked at this as Mihawk believing he is the strongest and stronger than Shanks, but this could also be a lose-lose situation for Mihawk, especially when these duels were so famous that Whitebeard mentioned it to Shanks when they met up. So my perspective is Mihawk fighting Shanks with one arm could be a bad thing since Shanks is handicapped, and of course Mihawk will never truly feel like he won. And then if he does lose, it's a lose-lose situation like I said, because losing to Shanks with one arm, it brings the ultimate shame. This topic is so controversial that Brand New highlighted Mihawk's bounty at around 3.6 billion berry, only being under Akainu, Shanks, and Blackbeard as active bounties currently, while saying he has greater sword skill than Shanks. So all in all, Kaido's statement on Haki transcends all might actually have some merit in Shanks still being incredibly powerful with only one arm, ending the Mihawk debate for now until my deep dive drops, which I'm currently working on, guys. I'm editing videos right now and I'm writing scripts about this. There's so many scripts that have to go into this in Shanks vs. Mihawk. It's going to be a very long deep dive. I also want to highlight where Haki is actually highlighted in itself is Shanks confronting the world's strongest man during the pre-time skip era, in which Whitebeard knocking out his new members and damaging the Moby Dick. It was a great teaser to the divine departure we would later witness in Egghead Island arc. But yeah, back to the confrontation. Shanks also clashes with Whitebeard and conquers Haki that would of course split the sky. And yeah, we would later see Big Mom and Kaido do the same during Wano, and even Luffy and Kaido during the Onigashima raid on the rooftop, while eventually seeing Luffy by himself do it when he awakened his Gear 5th, meaning his awakening definitely maybe amplified his Haki, or his Haki was just blooming as the battle went on and as he recovered against, of course, that sneak attack. Not really a sneak attack, but of course CP0 Guernica interrupting. And this, of course, was explained by Haki Master himself, Silver's Rayleigh, during Egghead Island. All in all, we would see Whitebeard during Marineford give the most damage to Akainu with, of course, his ace rage attack, and of course tank the most attacks I have ever seen in a long time while being sick and old, showing how powerful Whitebeard was, as he, let's be honest here, in his prime could code his Haki and conquers, and of course clash with a prime Gol D Roger, the man Shanks looked up to. Yeah, Oda definitely wanted us to look at Shanks as the guy after this Whitebeard Shanks confrontation. Now, One Piece is notorious for its unseen battles from the past and even the current story, and one of the most fan favorites is Shanks stopping Kaido from fighting Whitebeard, which gets much deeper because of the context of Kaido being an apprentice on the Rocks pirate crew, where Whitebeard moved like he was the captain sometimes, which bothered Shiki, and seeing Kaido mention Whitebeard in his legendary introduction, chapter 795, to Shanks stopping the man who caused havoc in Wano and had the highest active bounty at nearly 5 billion berries in Kaido, I think it was around 4.7 or 4.6, while being titled the strongest creature alive, and Luffy literally had to awaken his Delver ability and learn 3 advanced type of Hakis just to barely beat him, and yes, barely beat him. When he fought Zoro, Law, Killer, Kid, Yamato, the Red Scabbards, of course, Momonosuke. So yeah, you get the point. Oda really wanted us to perceive Shanks as this incredible, powerful human amongst monsters in this Shanks-Kaido interaction. Now, moving on from Shanks confronting Kaido, he still made it in time to stop Akainu from killing the future of the Marines Kobe, which we just recently saw with that Honesty Impact after Garp did his own, of course, Galaxy Impact. And of course, Akainu was a powerhouse during the war, doing the most damage to the Yonko Whitebeard, taking half his face off, to right after challenging his whole crew plus Crocodile. And Marco and Vista couldn't even do damage to him with their Haki. So yeah, that was crazy from the future Fleet Admiral. To after the war, Akainu even making Teach run, and of course defeating Aokiji during the time skip, even taking off his leg. So all I'm trying to say is Shanks stopping Akainu is more impressive when we look at, of course, the context and look at it through another lens. Definitely got to say, Shanks making Akainu not even rage at him. Like, I feel like we saw how Akainu was treating Whitebeard during the war. Akainu knew that Whitebeard was sick and old and his time was up, but Akainu knew Shanks was in his prime. That battle would have lasted forever, and Shanks probably would have came out on top, just going off the context of Akainu's power at that current time. And I must admit, Shanks stopping Akainu after Oda, you get to understand, Oda likes to glaze Akainu too, saying that he would have found the One Piece in 1 year if he was a pirate. definitely means a lot. Now, during that same arc or that same war, Shanks would later on finally confront Blackbeard again, in which he would back down. Yes, and I must admit, Blackbeard had no fear when Sengoku, Garp, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru were representing the Marines, trying to destroy Marine 4 with all those monsters in attendance, with his newly acquired Delphin ability he stole from Whitebeard, the Gurgur and Omi. But as soon as Shanks wants smoke with his powerful red-haired pirates, he ducks the fade. And for more context, Blackbeard scarred Shanks during his early pirate days while Shanks was on guard. It wasn't a sneak attack. And that's pretty impressive because Blackbeard is known for his sneak attacks, like of course he did versus Thatch and Whitebeard with his whole crew. But there is no honor amongst pirates, so I can't blame Blackbeard for his evil tendencies. But back to the topic of Shanks and Blackbeard. Even in the current story, Oda wants us to be excited for the ultimate duel, even having 2 new generation pirates worth 3 billion berries eliminated from these monsters. But yeah, another scene of Shanks looking good, and Shanks then of course would stop the war because of his name, as stated by Sengoku, because it's you, I'll stop it, who was fighting Blackbeard with his of course mythical Zoan. So we see a lot of respect for Shanks here, and of course a lot of hype for Shanks and Blackbeard finally confronting each other in the final saga. Now, if you made it this far in me examining Shanks' power and how he is still so strong, I must admit everything I just talked about was just context for what I truly wanted to analyze, and that's Shanks' first time actually going to battle in the One Piece story versus the hothead worst generation pirate Eustace Kid, in which Shanks showcased the greatest observation haki I have ever seen, and I've never even comprehended a man being able to see 10 seconds in the future, let alone the future in general. But that door was opened by Katakuri, the vice captain of the Yonko crew led by Big Mom, and ultimately was the result of Luffy learning Future Sight, and even thinking back on Rayleigh mentioning this ability to Luffy during the time skip, meaning there are many people to use this Future Sight to be revealed soon, as Oda even made Kaido flex this power while of course drunkenly fighting Luffy. All I'm trying to say is this feat alone by Shanks in stopping Kid from destroying his entire fleet was an overpowered attack, and that's saying a lot because Shanks is a Yonko with no Delphin ability, so he should have an overpowered haki ability. And then Shanks pulled out an of course Pirate King level attack with Divine Departure, coding his Stack and Conquer's haki. As we've seen, Kid's pirates are being knocked out from this attack, just the fodder crew members. Yes, this is the same Divine Departure that Roger used versus Kozuki Oden, and of course you have to understand Oden is a monster in his own right, and Shanks' Divine Departure not only knocked out Kid in one move, it also caused, of course, Killer to be caved in as well. The same Useless Kid that tanked a bunch of Big Mom's attacks, of course, she's able to also code her attacks in Conqueror's haki. And of course, with her monstrous power, she was able to kill a bear as a kid in one hit. And then of course, Killer also tanked some Yonko attacks on the rooftop and a lot of Hawkins abilities before taking him out. So you gotta understand, these are not regular pirates getting destroyed. These are of course post-Wano buffed up pirates getting destroyed. And I have to say this, guys, them doing nothing to Shanks means he might surpass the Yonko, Big Mom, and Kaido, which a lot of people are like, why is Shanks making his move after Big Mom and Kaido fall? He's a coward. A lot of people are saying that after Wano, but this might confirm, this Egghead Island feat might confirm him being actually Pirate King level, which adds another question: what is truly Pirate King level? Oda even came out recently in an interview stating Shanks is the only Roger pirate who could of course imitate Roger's Divine Departure, that one-shot kid who just came off of beating an emperor. These are Oda words, not mine. So the man who made One Piece is putting extreme emphasis on Shanks' haki to the point of which he's comparing it to dead characters, not living ones. Case in point, Joy Boy's haki, who was capable of returning the Gorosei into their human forms, causing Imu to have a PTSD panic attack all the way so far away, and of course the Holy Land Mary Joa, and of course knock out all the Vice Admirals, the same way Shanks had Vice Admirals falling in Film Red, but it was a little bit more different because they were actually sleeping on Egghead Island. And of course, lastly, the Giants' legendary legends Dory and Bragi, who came off of witnessing Shanks' haki on Elbaf, stating Joy Boy's haki was more powerful but less hostile. So yeah, Oda really wants us to look at Shanks as the strongest living haki user in the world, and we just saw Kaido, the strongest creature alive, say haki transcends all, and have even a top 5 list of dead legends in Rocks, Whitebeard, Roger, and Odin. Well, the 5th one was actually living. Yes, the only living member, Shanks. And when you have characters like Big Mom, Garp, Rayleigh, Sengoku, Mihawk still existing, that means something. I'm not saying like these names not being mentioned as a diss, of course, but I just mentioned that's pretty crazy that they're not highlighted and Shanks is. Highlighting Shanks' greatness for even making Kaido's list of guys who were able to fight him. Now I must admit Oda had difficulties in taking down Kaido during Wano, and he just created a bigger problem in trying to take down Shanks because of how much he's hyped up this character. Now, regardless if Oda has Blackbeard with 2 Delphoid abilities, or Luffy with his Joy Boy Nika, of course his Nika power Delphoid ability that he awakened during Wano, take down Red Haired Shanks, I must admit, look at what Luffy had to overcome to finally be compared to his role model. He had to unlock Future Sight, 2 advanced armament hakis, the one where you're not touching and the one of course when you're breaking them from within. That's the Red Rock one. And then of course Conqueror's Haki coding, while also awakening his Delphoid ability and mastering Gear 4th as we've seen on the current Elbaf story, where he confronts Loki, a giant worth 2.6 billion berries, who has came across Shanks' haki and might have lost in a battle as his underlings gas Shanks' haki. All I'm trying to say is Shanks' haki is still stronger than Luffy's, and the only man I can think of to have a chance to be stronger than, of course, the former Roger pirate is Monkey D. Dragon, Luffy's father. And that's because Oda hasn't shown us shit on this character, but Egghead Island highlighted his father taking down a former admiral plus the young commanders while he was out of his prime. And then of course Egghead Island also highlighted his son taking on Lucci, top CP0 agent, who's of course an awakened Admiral Kizaru, and the 5 Elder Stars, who had of course great Conqueror's Haki as well, and mythical powers, and just crazy durable creatures. So my safe assumption is Dragon is stronger than his father and his son currently, but it's still baseless until he shows something. So yeah, Shanks' title as the strongest, as he could of course easily meet with the 5 dangerous Gorosei with ease, will stay intact for now. Now, if you're probably wondering why I made this video now, it's because I don't believe Shanks will be so strong still. I actually have been predicting for over a decade now that Shanks won't live to see Luffy become Pirate King, much to the anger of many Shanks fans in the world who have been following my One Piece analysis for years. And of course, with Shanks just recently finally showing off some of his fighting capability, we might finally have more of an answer why he's so powerful than just Haki, as that seems to be the case for Roger and Joy Boy, which is understandable as Oda's not ready to reveal those 2 great powers until their official flashback begins. But with of course even Garb training being highlighted recently and how it eliminated both Haki and Delphoid ability, as you can just use your raw power when you're training against those ship battle bags, as Garb was able to fight legends like Roxy Zebek and Gol D Roger in his prime. All I expect is Shanks to have a more valid reason to his power, and thus me not needing to make this long dragged out video explaining why Shanks is still so strong. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.